Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The name is Jhammaster J. The date is February 13th, 2018. The time recorded is 7:25 p.m. And I'm here to give you another album review. This will be my third one. This is an album that was released, I would say, actually 3 days before my birthday, which was funny. This album is Atrocity Exhibition by Danny Brown. Now, before I get into the album, let's talk about the artist himself. Danny Brown hailed from Detroit, Michigan, along with Big Sean, Dej Loaf, Eminem, Royce da 5'9", and those are just the mainstream acts that has found commercial success. For those with more of the independents, the street legends, you can go all the way down. King Gordy, Fat Killers, D12, Ross C, Slum Village, j-dilla of Slum Village, Elzhi of Slum Village, who managed to get a name for themselves on their solo careers. MC Breed, rest in peace, as well as Blade Icewood, etc., etc. When it comes to hip-hop acts in a coast, or in a city, or in a state, Detroit will always be my favorite. I don't know why. It just feels like me and that kind of state of hip-hop connect. And Danny Brown is no different. When I first heard of Danny Brown, I heard of on an Elzhi project. It was the Fire remix, and I knew his vocal stood out when he started raising the tone in his voice. So at first I was caught off guard, but I was just trying to listen to an open mind, and I realized he can actually rap, and I was like, okay. Then I heard him off another Elzhi joint, which was pretty dope. And then I was like, okay, but I didn't really give him too much attention. All I knew is, okay, he's got bars, but he's that guy that has the high tone in his voice. Then I actually heard him on a radio app where they stream like a channel of an artist, and they stream certain artists, and Elzhi was a channel, and I've heard a Danny Brown track, and I'm like, this is from a mixtape of his, and I'm like, okay, he's actually pretty good. If I ever get the chance, I'll probably just check him out, see if he's any good. Unfortunately, I never really gotten that chance to do that. So I feel a little sorry for myself for sleeping on him unintentionally. Fast forward, he signs to Fool's Gold, rolling around with Tony Yayo for a while, but he signs to Fool's Gold, released his first album, Hybrid, which is okay, but his mainstream success was Triple X, a very dark and gritty album with, just a lot. This is what put him on the top of his career. And later on that year of 2012, I believe, around that year, Danny Brown became a freshman from one of the 2012 freshmen from the Double XL magazines, when they actually put actual artists on there. Now it's just like they'll put anyone with a hot song, but that's a topic for another video. Danny Brown, along with Macklemore, Iggy Azalea, Future, Hobson, etc., etc. Moving on to his career afterwards. He had another album out called Old, which was okay. I didn't think it was bad, but it wasn't really resonating with me like that. But obviously this was where he was in his big career, getting many success out of it. And then just like out of nowhere, after his verse from Detroit vs. Everybody, he did a couple of features, but he was kind of like missing off the radar. And I was hoping if he's okay, and out of nowhere just jumps out. And I didn't even know he was missing until I went on Facebook and he put some ads for some touring. I'm like, oh, Danny Brown, that's great. I hope he's doing well. I haven't heard about him in a while. Then I find out he actually has an album. Just him doing shows and the promotion from the albums were just straight up left field. Just like his switch from a label. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention he switched to Warp Records after he dropped Old. Which is weird because he did it in the middle of making this album that I'm about to review. So with that, the question is, does Danny Brown really deliver with this album? And the answer to that is absolutely. Danny Brown, quite frankly, delivers this album with Atrocity Exhibition. That's the name of the third album. This really is, some people say that it's Triple X on steroids. Like, this is Triple X amplified. To be honest with you, I don't see the similarities between that and Triple X. Maybe the songs are shorter, but really, listening to both albums, I'm literally not seeing the correlation. I just can't. I don't. I could see him talking about, darker subjects. But then again, he was talking about a lot of dark subjects on Old too, just in a more light commercial fashion. But for this one, I feel like Atrocity Exhibition is so much different. Really, this album, you could say it's the same thing, but it's really more of the eccentricity. I mean, the album tackles drug use, drug distribution, exploitation of women. When he talks about being high, having sex with them, the way he has sex with them, not getting too much in detail. Lot of crime line in Detroit, hood stuff, stories involving certain people, his childhood, just addiction to drugs with his newfound fame, and he does it in a way that is so that it's way different. I mean, and here's the difference from this album from than Triple X. I feel like in this album, this is what Danny Brown has come to after his fame. Triple X is more him talking about doing this stuff. And although Hybrid was his first album, this was before Danny Brown actually had commercial success. Because you could tell, 2 albums after an Atrocity Exhibition, Danny Brown is talking about doing the things that I would like to do when I make it big. And he's talking about having sex with porn stars that he's jerked off and, watched. So, he's been talking about this, but just the way he does it is just so crazy. And it's ironic, on one of the tracks he's like, I'm doing all this stuff so you wouldn't, which is kind of weird, a weird take on it. But hey, you know what I mean? One thing I'll say is Danny Brown, gets very experimental with drugs, but he always, the difference between him and other artists talking about drugs, because I know when we think of hip-hop, and we think of the culture, and we think of people doing drugs, whether it be lean and Molly and da-da-da-da-da, and people have these complaints that, these artists are glorifying it. Danny Brown, yeah, there are tracks where it sounds like he's glorifying it, but really, when you listen and dissect, turns out he's really actually talking about how destructive they can be. Danny Brown has made it clear throughout Triple X, Old, and even this album, not only that he does the stuff that you wouldn't, but really, especially on Triple X, he felt like he's too afraid of death. So suicide through drug use is just a way of slowing him down. Even though he said he quit drinking lean because he had a pregnant stomach, but that's neither here nor there. I've seen Danny Brown in person. I've seen his character. I've seen the way he looks. He looks really different, I'll tell you that. You could tell he looks like He looks like a guy that's famous but really on drugs. But he knows this. He knows he likes doing some of this stuff. I mean, I don't mean to say it like that. I'm pretty sure it's going to be misconstrued that way. But just, I'm pretty sure, Danny Brown, it's been clear on the video for Ain't It Funny, and amongst other things, that Danny Brown's kind of crying. It's like a cry for help. But hopefully, he's okay. He gets the help that he gets. And just story after story, like, you hear that, the way he tackles certain subject matters are so dark and depressing, but it gives you a vivid image of what goes on in his career and his life, But yeah, let's talk about the productions, mainly by Paul White and Black Milk. I'll say this: they've done a phenomenal job producing. They've done so much. The way they sampled Lost and they just did that beat, and Danny Brown just wrote that beat. Downward Spiral, the production on that. Ain't It Funny just was just, and I think everyone can agree. I mean, it's one thing, you hear the posse cut with, and I'll talk to more about that. You hear the posse cut on Really Though, and then you hear Lost, which sounds pretty booming, and you're thinking this album's just gonna be cool and booming and bassing. And I've seen everybody's reaction videos, and I've seen musical critics actually talk about this album. And one thing we all can agree on, including myself, was after we heard Lost, and I've seen the reaction videos too, after we all heard Lost, when that record transitioned into Ain't It Funny, that track caught all of us by surprise. I mean, you want to say kudos for Danny Brown for just getting us just thinking that Lost is like, we're just enjoying it, and then we hear Ain't It Funny, and we're just like, wait, what the whether we're enjoying it or not, the majority of us obviously enjoyed it, but it just, and I think Fantano from the Needle Drop said it best, every track after that just gets weirder and weirder and weirder. And the fact that, in one track, Danny Brown, Get High, where he's just rapping over nothing, that just something that just barely sounds like a beat, but he makes it work. It's so weird, but it's so awesome at the same time. It just, shout out to Paul White for that, and shout out to Black Milk, and shout out to other producers that are probably in the credits. I was supposed to write that down, but I forgot. But I know those were the two that stuck out of my head. The lyrics, once again, they paint a very vivid and dark picture, and it works well with the wild experimentation of the production in this album. Like, Danny Brown's lyrics are great. Now, some people can't really get into his high-pitched voice. Like I said, I was able to get it right away. Some people, takes a while, but if you really want to give Danny Brown a chance and you feel like you can't get through his voice, like, because you can barely hear what he says, I mean, I'll say this. If this is the best suggestion I can give anyone. My suggestion, listen to the album first. Listen to the album within its entirety. And I wanted to make sure I did this before I did the review. I want to make sure I wrote this down. I did this before I even wrote down the review, because I wanted to make sure my conception of certain songs were not misconstrued or anything like that. Listen to the album within its entirety, and before you form an opinion, like, listen once, twice, or even 3 times for that matter. You don't have to listen to it multiple times like I did, but you can listen to it once or twice, at least. on average. But on your on your next listen after this, I want you to actually find the lyrics of all the songs and all the tracks in this album and look up the lyrics as you are rapping this. Or not rapping, but as you read the lyrics as he's singing this. Because there are certain songs you think, like When It Rains, you think this is a banger. It kind of is, but, you know, you think this is like a dope banger that you could play in a club. And I'm like, this is great. Then I actually read the lyrics on this, and I'm just like, wow, I got fooled into thinking this was a banger. Holy crap, this is dark. This is really dark. I mean, talking about robbing grandmothers when they get to the store. I mean, obviously the shout out to Trick, who runs Detroit, who's the mayor of Detroit, as Big Sean would say. Obviously, if you're going to check in Detroit and do a show, you gotta call him. But if you beefing with him, ain't nobody in Detroit fucking with you. Jeez, I wonder how Trick feels about Papoose dissing. I wonder how Trick feels about Papoose dissing Big Sean after he done went after. You know, Trick done went on Twitter and said anybody beefing with Big Sean has a problem with me. But you know, that's just me. But Danny Brown has said, you know, you beef with Danny, you beef with Trick, it's gonna be an issue here. But yeah, you know, he talks about. I mean, there's a couple he talks about, you know, Gumbo and all that. But when it's like, get on up, man, get on up, man, get on up, man, get on, I'm just like, okay, this track getting me hype. I like this. And then I read the lyrics. I'm like, oh, this doesn't really sound like a. Cause I know Danny Brown said on Sway he doesn't really perform depressing and dark music. He performs hype music. Will he perform this at his show? Because I hope he does, and I would pay a ticket for his next show that comes down here if he does this. If not, what a bummer. But with that being said, you know, I mean, read the lyrics as you listen to the album, and you'll get a different image and you'll get a different feel of the album. Getting into the actual tracks, my least favorite and my best, and my most favorite. Before I get into the tracks, I want to say none of these tracks are bad. I don't hate the tracks at all. The pros is that they're so weird and so different. The cons is just the fact that some of these tracks lack replay value. Like, I won't find myself coming back to them. But that's not a bad thing. That's just any album, really. That doesn't take away from the album. But the eccentricity makes up at the same time for it because it's so interesting. It's an introspective song. Some songs I just want to listen to and just jam. Certain songs I probably have to be in the mood to just introspectively listen to. With that being said, my least favorite was Rolling Stone. Wasn't really a fan of the rock. Wasn't really a fan of the rock and roll type feel, but I enjoyed it because of the way it talked, the story he told on this track. Very depressing, but you know, very introspective. Tell me what I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not really a fan of Danny Brown really talking about, or not talking about, but rapping in his normal voice. I'm just not, I mean, it doesn't have to be high, but just with energy. I like that. He does it with energy, especially with Hybrid. But with this one, it's just like, okay, you know, I can vibe to this. You know, it's like he does what he does. Story's like, you know, he does what he does. Oh, you're gonna die this? Yeah, tell me what. No, that's pretty much what it is, really. The next track, From the Ground. That one's a forgettable song. It's not even in my eyes. It's not even in my head. But that's really, all I can say negatively. It's, once again, nothing bad. It's just, nothing I could come back to. Today, once again, that's another, same thing. Another track I can come back to. Or another track I won't come back to. Hell for It. This is Danny Brown's final track of the album. My problem with this one is it doesn't really end the album on a strong note. It doesn't end it on a bad note. It's just like that. This track right here is what separates it from Triple X. It's just, it doesn't have the ending the way Triple X does. You know what I mean? Triple X is this song about, yeah, I'm at the top, I'm a freshman and this, and I'm 30. People thought I wasn't going to do it, but I'm starting to make it. I have people, I'm making music, blah, blah, blah. The Hell for It is afterwards, where it's just like, people think this lyricism is so dope, and, don't let anyone tell you what it is. There was shade at his freshman classmate, Iggy Azalea, but, everyone took shots at her, but he's like, his claim was he just said it because it rhymed. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't read it deep into it, but I just wasn't a fan of the way the beat was. I mean, the beat was more of an ending to it, but it was like, whatever. But yeah, that's those are my least favorite tracks, really. Some of these tracks I just won't necessarily come back to. It's not that they're bad, because if I put on the Atrocity Exhibition album, I will play it and I will listen to the songs. It's just, they're alright. But if I'm skimming Atrocity Exhibition, if I'm skimming this record, then yeah, I won't. Like I said, I'm just gonna ignore these. But let's get to my favorite track, Gold Dust. I like the rock. I liked how they did the rock and roll use on that track. Also, slight reference to the wrestler, the Gold Dust. I'll never forget the name of him. Pause. Dance in the Water, just another rock and roll beat, but the hook, dance in the water and not get wet, not get wet, not get wet. Like, holy crap, it's really booming. Get High. This one's a beat that he barely rapped on, but it was just barely a beat, but he just rapped it, and it was just about getting high with Big Real on the hook. The way the beat was just all smooth. It was like if you listen to this album and it was like a high, it was definitely a coming down from this track. When it rains, obviously, because even though it was still dark, it's just the fact that the bridge, the pre-hook was awesome. That's my favorite part. Baseball, blocks on your face, ain't no baseball, better run home. It just, when it rains in the forest, get your ass on the floor. Oh, just dope. The way the beat rides, the way he just raps on it, especially when he says from Detroit due to Rambisco. Obviously, I've heard this from Baby and from the j-dilla track on the Shining album, but when he said it was also funny, it was also pretty cool. Ultimately, this is a dope banger, or kind of, sort of banger, but it's really good. I like it. Next track. Oh, that's right. Really though. Dope ass posse cut. Dope ass Black Mill beat. Everyone did their thing. But we not gonna act like Earl Sweatshirt out-rapped Kendrick. You can see it on my Earl Sweatshirt video. Link will be in the description, of course. Earl just shining star of the track, and Danny Brown obviously starts the track off with a nice flow. Absol and Kendrick Lamar kind of just like neck and neck, but Earl stole the show at the end. And it's great that somebody put Earl on a track with these guys. We needed it. And it's the way Earl just abruptly ends it with that lyric. And then transitions to my favorite track on the album, as I said, with that sample and the way the beat just loops itself, but it works. It's like it's sloppy loop, but it's really dope because he flows on it. Everyone apparently likes that line where he's like, I'm like Kubrick with 2 bricks with a hose on a curb. No, I'm like Kubrick with 2 bricks and hose on a strip. Like, I like that line too. And then the Spielberg with ill words, a hose on a curb. It was also dope. But while everyone's over here focused on this line, I'm focused on this line. I'm focused on this one line that made this easily my favorite track on this album. Flat screen porno watching Asa Akira. Oh Lord, now everyone, now you all know, if we watching this stuff, we definitely watching Asa Akira. That automatically made it my favorite track on the album, and the reason why this is my favorite Danny Brown album of all time. Hello, I wonder if he smashed her too. I would like to smash her too, but I digress. Those are really my favorite tracks, really. But like I said, digest the lyrics. Final thoughts, just digest the lyrics, listen to them, read them if you have to, listen to this more than once. You would really enjoy this character and this eccentricity of the album. Danny Brown takes you on a crazy roller coaster ride in this album, and you would be crazy not to. You'd be crazy to sleep on. Don't sleep on them like I did. But it's dope. Danny Brown just made himself not just a classic, but he made himself a magnus opus, which is an undeniable classic. Everyone will say this is a classic. Everyone that every YouTuber, except a couple, the majority of YouTube spoke. This is a dope ass album, and I hope everyone takes the time to enjoy Atrocity Exhibition. That's why if you saw my Instagram post and you already pre-saw my rating, I explained more on the video. Those just watching, yeah, man, this is what I do. Overall, the final rating I want to give this track, this record, overall is a 9 out of 10. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If there's any other reviews, any rappers that have any suggestions for a review, DM me on my Instagram page at Jhammaster. Links will be in the description. Facebook. If you really want me to review an album, let me know. I got you. I'm all for giving reviews. I will get my next few reviews. I have the Cause reviews that I'm gonna write. I'm gonna write the Black Panther, the reviews. I'm actually going to record the Migos and the Dedication 6 reviews. And with that being said, without anything else to say, this has been your unpopular album review by Jhammaster J. I do it all from ranting to opinions to music to wrestling to personals to everything. And I hope you signed in, because I am the type of guy that you want to take the ride with. This is Jhammaster J, signing off with a crotch grab. Peace.